Welcome, friends, to another teaching in our series, The Buddha's Original Teachings. Today we turn toward one of the most essential and perhaps most psychologically insightful teachings in the entire early Buddhist canon, the three unwholesome roots: greed, Lobha, hatred, Dosa, and delusion, Moha. This teaching appears repeatedly throughout the Aṅguttara Nikāya and Saṁyutta Nikāya, where the Buddha states that these three roots are the foundation of all unskillful actions, all emotional suffering, all conflict between humans, and all rebirth into troubling mental states. In the Aṅguttara Nikāya 369, the Buddha says, "Greed, hatred, and delusion, these are the roots of the unwholesome." And in the Saṁyutta Nikāya 27, he explains that these roots, when fully understood, uprooted, and abandoned, lead to liberation. Today, we will explore these three forces not as abstract philosophy, but as living dynamics that operate inside the mind every day. We will discover how they shape our behavior, our relationships, our choices, and how we can transform them. Let us begin gently, with awareness, and with the intention to understand ourselves more deeply. The three roots as forces within the mind. When the Buddha described greed, hatred, and delusion, he didn't present them as moral sins or flaws. Instead, he described them as natural but unskillful energies that arise due to misunderstanding reality. They are not bad in the sense of being punishable, rather they are patterns of reaction, habitual tendencies, deep psychological reflexes. They are simply the mind's attempt to cling to what feels pleasant, reject what feels painful, and remain confused about what feels unclear. Let us look more closely at each root. Greed, Lobha, the craving to possess or cling. Greed is not merely wanting money or objects. Greed, as the Buddha taught, is any mental movement toward grasping. It can be craving for attention, craving for comfort, craving for validation, craving for experiences, craving for becoming someone, craving for more of anything. In the Saṁyutta Nikāya 22, the Buddha says that greed arises because of the illusion that the aggregates, body, feeling, perception, formations, and consciousness are mine. To illustrate, imagine holding sand in your hand. If you grasp it tightly, the sand slips away. This is greed, a tightening movement of the mind. Think about everyday life. We want the last word in an argument. We want our partner to understand us perfectly. We want our co-workers to praise us. We want our children to behave a certain way. We want our future to unfold exactly as we imagine. Greed whispers, "If only I get this, then I will be happy." But as soon as we grasp, the feeling of need tightens. And once we obtain what we desire, it fades, and greed arises again. This is why, in 3.71, the Buddha compares greed to a thirst that increases the more we drink. The problem isn't desire itself. There are healthy desires, wholesome aspirations. The problem is clinging. The Buddha did not ask us to suppress our desires. Instead, he encouraged us to understand desire, see it clearly, and watch how grasping leads to tension and dissatisfaction. Hatred, Dosa, the force of rejection, resistance, and aversion. Hatred arises whenever the mind pushes something away. Many think hatred means only intense anger or violence, but the Buddha describes it more subtly. Irritation, impatience, blaming, resentment, judgment, coldness, rejection, wishing something or someone were different. Hatred is any moment of, "I don't want this." In Saṁyutta Nikāya 22, the Buddha teaches that hatred arises when we perceive unpleasant sensations as dangerous or personal. Think of small examples. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker talks too loudly. A partner forgets something important. Your body aches. Your plans change unexpectedly. If we look carefully, the mind often generates a small vibration of aversion. I don't like this. Why is this happening? This reaction is hatred in its seed form. Even more subtle. When we scroll past news we dislike. When we avoid a conversation we fear. When we distract ourselves from uncomfortable feelings. These are all forms of pushing away. In N 3.66, the Buddha said, hatred burns the heart like fire. It contracts the mind, reduces empathy, and blocks wisdom. Hatred is not destroyed by resisting it or judging ourselves for having it. It dissolves only through understanding, patience, and loving kindness, metta. Delusion, Moha, the root of ignorance and misunderstanding. Of the three roots, delusion is the most subtle. Delusion doesn't mean stupidity. It means misperceiving reality. Misunderstanding cause and effect. Believing things are permanent when they're not. Believing things are self when they're not. Confusing what brings happiness with what brings suffering. Delusion is illusion. It shows up in daily life as thinking possessions guarantee happiness. Believing anger punishes another more than ourselves. Assuming our thoughts are completely true. Assuming other people make us feel something. Believing the body or identity is stable. The Buddha often described delusion as a fog covering the mind. In Saṁyutta Nikāya 12, he teaches that ignorance, avijja, keeps the cycle of suffering turning. Because we keep repeating actions without understanding their consequences. One example, you may think that worrying helps you solve problems, but worry rarely solves problems. It just creates more suffering. Yet out of delusion, we cling to it. Or consider anger. We think anger protects us, but anger usually harms us first. Delusion makes us mistake poison for medicine. Once delusion is understood, clarity arises. Wisdom grows. We begin to see things as they are, rather than how our habits paint them. How the three roots work together. Although we describe greed, hatred, and delusion separately, in real life they work together like a triad. For example, greed desires something. Hatred appears if we don't get it. Delusion confuses us, making both reactions seem logical or justified. Here is another example. You want someone to love you in a certain way. Greed. They don't behave as expected. You feel hurt or angry, hatred. You believe your happiness depends entirely on their actions, delusion. This cycle repeats endlessly. The Buddha, in AN 3.65, said that these three roots feed each other like logs in a fire. When one burns, it ignites the others. But the good news is also true. If you weaken one root, the others lose strength. For example, when we reduce delusion through mindfulness, greed and hatred soften. When we cultivate loving kindness, hatred cannot survive. When we practice generosity, greed dissolves. These roots are not permanent. They are conditions, habits, patterns, and like all conditions, they can be transformed. The antidotes taught by the Buddha. Let us explore the remedies the Buddha offered based on the Nikayas. 1. Generosity, dana, cuts through greed. When we give freely, without expecting anything in return, we weaken the mind's habit of grasping. It can be giving time, giving attention, giving forgiveness, giving material support, giving a smile or words of kindness. Generosity opens the hand and therefore opens the heart. In N 357, the Buddha says, generosity leads to joy, and joy leads to calm, and calm leads to wisdom. 2. Loving kindness, metta, transforms hatred. Loving kindness is the sincere wish. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be at peace. When practiced sincerely, even for 5 seconds, it changes the energy of the mind. In SL 4654, the Buddha teaches that loving kindness destroys ill will the way light dispels darkness. Imagine pouring warm water onto ice. Hatred melts in the same way. 3. Wisdom, Panya, dissolves delusion. Wisdom is not mere intellectual knowledge. Wisdom is seeing impermanence clearly, understanding cause and effect, knowing emotions arise and pass, seeing that clinging causes suffering. Noticing thoughts are not facts. In SN 35A2, the Buddha says that wisdom sees things as they have come to be. Wisdom is the light that reveals the path. Delusion fades naturally. When we cultivate mindfulness and insight meditation, wisdom becomes our inner guide. Let's bring this teaching down to daily life. Example 1. Someone criticizes you. Greed says, I want approval. Hatred says, I reject this criticism. Delusion says, my worth depends on what they say. Instead, wisdom says, this is just a sound, a thought, a passing moment. Loving kindness says, may I remain at peace. Generosity says, may we both be free from misunderstanding. This is the Buddhist path in action. Example 2. You desire something strongly. Maybe it's a promotion, a relationship, an object. Greed clings. I need this. Delusion confuses. This will complete me. Hatred appears if obstacles arise. Instead, mindfulness watches the desire without obeying it. Wisdom sees its impermanence. Generosity softens the grip. Desire loses its power. Example 3. You feel anxious or afraid. Fear is often a mixture of greed for safety, hatred of uncertainty, delusion about control. Instead, mindfulness embraces the feeling. Wisdom sees it as a passing phenomenon. Compassion holds it gently. The anxiety becomes workable. The psychology of the 3 roots. If the Buddha were alive today, modern psychologists would say he discovered the underlying motivational systems of human behavior. Greed as approach system, hatred as avoidance system, delusion equals confusion system. These are evolutionary responses. But the Buddha went further. He taught that we can transcend these automatic reactions through awareness and training. In AN 3.67, he says that understanding the 3 roots is essential for liberation. He wasn't teaching morality, he was teaching freedom from reactivity. This is why this teaching is so foundational. The possibility of uprooting them. The Buddha assures us, what can be abandoned can indeed be abandoned. SN 27-109. The roots are not permanent features of the mind. They are optional, conditioned, trainable, transformable. With practice, greed becomes generosity, hatred becomes compassion, delusion becomes wisdom. This transformation is not instantaneous. It is gradual, patient, gentle. The Buddha compares it to the slow erosion of a mountain or the steady growth of a seed. Small moments matter. Every time we let go a little, offer kindness, or see clearly, we weaken the roots. Eventually, the mind becomes a place of spaciousness, clarity, and peace. As we come to the end of this teaching, let us reflect on the essence. Greed, hatred, and delusion are not punishments. They are not sins. They are not signs of failure. They are misunderstandings, habits that arise from not seeing fully. And every moment of practice is a moment of coming home to clarity, kindness, and freedom. The Buddha's message is simple and profound. When we understand the roots, we understand ourselves. When we transform the roots, we transform our lives. When we uproot the roots, we realize liberation. May this teaching inspire you to observe your mind gently, with patience and compassion. Thank you for listening to today's Dharma talk in the Buddha's original teachings. If this teaching speaks to your heart, consider sharing it, meditating on it, or reflecting on how the three roots appear in your daily life. May you be well. May you be free from greed, hatred, and delusion. May wisdom guide your path.